It is a great day. It's always a great day the day after the draft. We got Sam Flannel. Sam, before we get into anything, how you feeling this morning?
You know what? I'm feeling great. One of the biggest honors so far that since I've been at Woodward Sports is getting to do the draft day reaction with Woodward Pistons' own Jeff Iafrate. Didn't I just see you on TV last night for what, like 5 straight hours? What are you, like the Truman Show now? You're on every show ever.
Yeah, well, I was helping out the heavies. I was doing audio for them, and then we did the NBA draft show. And again, anybody who tuned into that, we appreciate you. They continued the live on Woodward Pistons over in Studio B. But it was a blast, man. Sitting there, obviously covering the NBA draft. I feel like this is every single year where you talk about 15 different prospects. You just want to get to the draft.
Oh, yeah.
You just want to find out who the Pistons are selecting. And we got our answer. It's Ausar Thompson, 5th overall. They stayed put. Troy Weaver didn't trade back. He didn't trade up. And there you go. Ausar Thompson listed him as a shooting guard / small forward. He's a wing in the NBA, 6'7", 220. And again, this is some guy that was mocked to the Pistons plenty of times. It was rumored, Amen and him. The first brothers, I believe, in NBA history to be top 5 picks.
Wow.
Twin brothers. Safe to say they're better than the Morris twins, I would say.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, back-to-back, 4 and 5, that's a more unbelievable story than I think is being covered.
Yeah.
Twin brothers, one at number 4, one at number 5. That is a night that they certainly will never forget. And we certainly hope that Ausar Thompson turns out to be the right pick for the Detroit Pistons. It was very promising, of course.
Yes, it was. And again, Troy Weaver does a really good job at hinting at things before the draft. He does this. It's very subtle. And when he had his pre-draft presser, and one thing that stuck with me is that long ball comment. Like, that isn't nothing. That's something. Him hinting, I don't want to just bunt. I want to go for the long ball. That entails that he's not just going to settle for a player that fits the best. He wants to swing for the fences, which, again, could work out. But also it could not, like any other draft pick. So as much as we may be excited, there is a chance. And there's a lot of pressure on Troy for this draft pick to pan out. But again, in my opinion, if you look at what he said, going for the long ball, Sam, this was the guy. Left on the board, Troy said it. Ausar's been our guy for quite some time now. And he obviously, none of that stuff gets out. But we kind of knew that. He became the favorite or close to the favorite right before the draft. And again, I think his comments match Ausar. Ausar's upside, and I don't think people understand too, it's not just the athleticism. It's not just the size. Like, and I know people bring up shooting, and we'll get to all that stuff later in the show because I do understand the concerns there. But he brings so much, and that's why you take a risk on a guy like that, because you know if he can figure it out, he can be a dude in the NBA. He can be.
Absolutely. And I've come to appreciate Troy Weaver's transparency when it came to saying he wanted to go for the long ball and not just settle for a double or a bunt. And Ausar Thompson, whether you like him or not, whether you're concerned about his shooting or not, he is a high upside prospect. And if he hits, he might end up being one of the better picks in this draft. There's also the concern with him missing, the concern about his shot, and all of that is all good and valid. But right now, he at least went. I can't fault a guy for swinging for the fences, and that feels like what Troy Weaver did with Ausar Thompson. So I'm not mad about it. I'm not super excited or anything, but I definitely have talked myself into it. And Jeff Iafrate, I'm sure you'll talk me more into it further on.
And again, with Ausar too, you have to understand here. With you look at the pick itself and the prospect of Ausar Thompson, the athleticism, he's going to be a day one pretty elite defender. Like, at least there's that. The shooting, like, we talk about this team needs shooting. They need guys that can defend, specifically on the wing. So I get the whole, well, we need shooters. I knew there was something to them being interested in Jeremy Grant and Tobias Harris. There was something to that. Guys that can play the 4, that can shoot the ball. That kind of, as much as we didn't really look into it, it kind of spoke to what they were looking for. And again, you get a guy day one who could be a great defender. And just to go through Ausar Thompson really quickly, and I want to give kind of a backstory. He obviously played at Overtime Elite. Again, a 2-time Overtime Elite champion. Both seasons he played there, and he picked up the Finals MVP award in both of those of those seasons as well. Troy Weaver said it himself. Even before the Overtime Elite League, these guys were top 5. They were lottery picks. They were top 5 picks. And even after Overtime Elite, they got much better. So for people saying, well, you draft these guys out of Overtime Elite, this is the new age of the NBA now. Like, it's not just, I know typically it's always been college. You draft guys out of college or overseas. There's so many other options, Sam. You got G League Ignite. You got the Overtime Elite League. Like, guys can showcase their skills no matter where they go. And in the NBA draft, compared to other drafts, you draft on potential. And I think Ausar, if you're talking about potential, has the highest upside of anybody else in that draft spot. I mean, yes, the players that were left on the board, I mean, could you have taken Taylor Hendricks, my guy? Of course. But I understand the philosophy for Troy Weaver. I understand trying to take a swing on a guy like Ausar Thompson. And again, you talk about fit. There is that fit part that plays into this as well, because Ausar with Amen, they've played together their entire lives, but Asar's always played off of Amen. He's always played off ball. So the fit, he's going to get used to playing right with Cade and Jaden Ivey. And Troy said it himself. In today's NBA, you need multiple guys that can make plays with the basketball. That's the truth. As much as I like Taylor Hendricks, he ain't making plays off the dribble like Ausar Thompson. He just isn't. No. So in the modern day NBA, I think it's a great fit. If he could figure his shot out or at least be respectable, he's going to be a great player. He will be.
Well, that, of course, is the key with Ausar Thompson. And to be fair, obviously we know that his shooting percentages were not pretty in the Overtime Elite League. He was a 30% shooter in the regular season from three. Not great. And that is definitely a concern, especially given the fact that Taylor Hendricks, Jarris Walker, and Cam Whitmore, all who were available at that slot, who I personally would have preferred them to pick at the time, all shot better in college than Ausar Thompson did from three in the Overtime Elite League. But I'll tell you what, one thing that gives me hope that Ausar Thompson can become a good shooter is in the Overtime Elite playoffs, he bumped that three-point percentage up to 39%, which is, if he can shoot 39% from three in the NBA at any point in his career, that would obviously be a home run pick. That would be one of the keys to Ausar Thompson reaching his ceiling and being that actual home run pick that Troy Weaver said that he was going to shoot for, obviously, or swing for. And you already mentioned it, Ausar Thompson, he's going to come in. What I like about this pick, too, is having Cade Cunningham back and having Ausar Thompson, their defense is going to be exponentially better from day one, presuming they're both healthy, than it was last year. You're not going to be looking at the Detroit Pistons as one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA, or at least not as bad as they were last year. And Ausar Thompson, an athletic wing who can guard the perimeter, the Pistons needed wing depth. Obviously, they have Bojan Bogdanovic right now, who is a three-point sniper, but he's not a defender, and he's older. They're looking to get younger, they're looking to get more athletic, and they're looking to get people who can score in transition. I mean, imagine Cade, Jaden Ivey, and Ausar Thompson coming at you on the fast break. There's going to be lots of explosive plays, I will say, and like I said, the more I talk myself into it, the more I look up on him, the more I hear people I trust seeing Ausar Thompson's praises, the happier I get about this pick.
Yeah, and also they weren't done there. Troy Weaver traded up again in the first round, and he traded two second-round picks and 31 for 25, and selected Marcus Sasser out of Houston, who again 6'2". He's the size of a point guard, but he doesn't play like a point guard. He's a two guard. He can shoot the hell out of the ball. He's a nasty perimeter defender. And you look at what the Pistons need too with Killian Hayes. And I saw the tweets last night. Goodbye, Killian. This is it for Killian. Guys, you have to understand too, and although you may be correct there, we'll see what Killian does this season. The other part of it is they can technically play together. Like Marcus Sasser isn't the playmaker Killian is, and they're both great defenders. But you got Marcus, who is a hell of a shooter, and you got Killian Hayes, who's a hell of a playmaker and defender. Those two guys can share a backcourt. Killian Hayes is 6'5". Like Marcus Sasser and him can play together. But regardless, Marcus Sasser, I love it. I do, because you look at the point guard depth, at least on this team. I mean, as much as we all love Corey Joseph, yeah, you got to get some more depth there.
Do we love Corey Joseph as much as we love Corey Joseph?
No, I'm kidding there. But regardless, Killian Hayes, still question marks with Killian. You take Marcus Sasser. I love the pick. What are your thoughts on it when they traded up and got him?
Well, for the record, I still want Killian Hayes gone under just about any circumstance, because I still believe, even though Killian Hayes does have some strengths, that if you can't shoot 40% from the floor and 30% from three, all of that weakness alone basically outdoes all of the strengths you might have. But to further your point, I can see a scenario in which Marcus Sasser and Killian Hayes can play together because they have different skill sets. If you're worried about shooting for the Detroit Pistons, Marcus Sasser already has it in droves. He shot 38% last year at Houston from 3, which is very, very good.
On like 6 attempts,
On
too.
6 attempts. With Ausar Thompson, you worry about him developing more of a consistent shot. With Marcus Sasser, you already know that he has one. And you mentioned that Marcus Sasser, despite being 6'2" and listed in some spots as a point guard, he's not much of a playmaker. He is looking to score, and he is a tenacious perimeter defender. He's one of those guys that will just be a pest defending NBA guards. He's going to be one of those guys, and I saw Sean Murphy kind of say this about Anthony Black, but I think this applies to Marcus Sasser. Some NBA veterans are not going to want to play against a young, energetic Marcus Sasser going hard at them
right.
the whole game. So that all that being said, they could play together. Killian Hayes has better size and he's a better playmaker, and Marcus Sasser can shoot and Killian Hayes obviously cannot, and they both can defend. Obviously, I still want Killian Hayes gone, but that might be that pairing that he needs in the second unit when it comes to the point guard and shooting guard. I can talk myself into it. I don't love Killian Hayes still, but I can see the pathway, Jeff. I can see the pathway.
You sound like a lot of Pistons fans often.
I know.
There's always a pathway
always a
everybody
pathway.
can see.
So is Sasser, just because I watched a lot of film on like the top, like the lottery guys. I didn't watch a lot of film on like behind that. So is Sasser going to be a guy that comes in and is able to play make too, or do you think he's going to be a guy that comes in as kind of like that burst off the bench, kind of like the campaign in Phoenix?
He's more of a burst off the bench guy, but also he's a better defender than Campaign. But for Sasser, he's a scorer. I think the playmaking side for Marcus Sasser is something that's not the reason why you drafted him. You look at the shooting, you look at the tenacious perimeter defense that he provides. Also, like there's a lot of things. You bring a guy like Marcus Sasser off your bench, if he turns into even a dependable NBA player, that's going to be a guy you like in the playoffs. Like guys that can come off your bench, defend, shoot the three. Not saying he's Derek White, but guys like that come off the bench or can start. We'll see what Marcus Sasser's career looks like. But right now, I like the prospect. Now we'll see what he becomes.
Well, I mean, you even mentioned Derek White. You're not comparing him to Derek White.
No,
but
role.
If he becomes a Derek White type player at pick number 25, then it will have been a successful pick for the Detroit Pistons. And I think I like the pairing of Ausar Thompson and Marcus Sasser as a pair more than I did when I had just known that the Detroit Pistons had picked Ausar Thompson at number 5. As a pairing, I think they complement each other well, but we shall see. They both have a little bit in some ways of what each other doesn't. Hopefully they can impact the Pistons greatly even as soon as this season.